Hey everybody. Hey, hello internet. Hello internet. Hey guys, this is Kyle, aka Vulcan Wolverine, and it's about 10 a.m. here in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. July 1st, July 4th coming up. Probably won't be doing anything fun. I don't know, maybe I might be able to go to Florida and be with my parents for July 4th. I don't know. Okay, I'm already getting off track. I hope everybody's doing okay. I hope everybody's hanging in there. Um, I hope God is giving you guys strength to get through this stuff. I just wanted to show a couple of things because that legislation just came out, right, to give governmental workers monetary assistance and medical assistance, right, that have been hit by remote microwaves. But I was looking into the USC codes on human experimentation. Like I found this one. I don't know if many of you guys have seen this. I'm sure y'all have. But this is a 1994 US code. I don't know if it was brought forward, like it was written further back and then amended. And this is the amended one in 1994. I'm not sure. I know there was a USC code right after World War II, and I was trying to find it. I can't find it anywhere. Maybe it's my bad research. I'm pretty good at some research, but I'll talk about that later. But Title 50, War and National Defense, Chapter 32, Chemical and Biological Warfare Program, right? Section 1520, Use of Human Subjects for Testing of Chemical or Biological Agents by Department of Defense, accounting to congressional committees congressional committees with respect to experiments and studies, notification of local civilian officials. So basically, like, let me read it to you guys. Because I was just thinking a lot about like how I'm saying, well, the dominoes are going to fall, right? They're helping all these, governmental workers that are being hit by remote microwaves, and probably the Senate Intelligence Committee. They don't know that people are being experimented on, right? Because I want to believe in people. I want to believe in our Congress that if they knew that people were being involuntarily experimented on, they would do something about it. The problem is that they do know, and it seems justified to them, and it's all under the guise of national security, right? So I was thinking about this. Let me read this. I don't want to forget this point, though. We're talking about court cases, right? Talking about class action suits or singular court cases. The problem with that is all of this, and now, I mean, with the jab, right? They're experimenting on a global population. Every country is experimenting on like all of their citizens, right? With microwave towers and radar, and then I actually think the jabs do work to get rid of certain viruses, but there's extra things in them, right, that will transhumanize the people that are getting the jab. But let me read this. Let me read this. And so everything is really, really crazy, and basically the whole human population is being experimented on. And then there's intense experimentation with remote microwaves, and the things they're doing to my brain and active memory is very, very scary. Um, your brain is so important. It's in your head, and it controls everything in your body. So it's a very important thing. We just gotta laugh, right? We just gotta laugh. Um, but okay, so 1520, use of human subjects for testing of chemical or biological agents by Department of Defense, accounting to congressional committees with respect to experiments and studies, notification of local civilian officials. So what they're saying is, it'll say it here. There's still some fruit flies. The real fruit flies. It's not me imagining them. So, okay, A, not later than 30 days after final approval within the Department of Defense of plans for any experiment or study to be conducted by the Department of Defense, whether directly or under contract, involving the use of human subjects for the testing of chemical or biological agents. The Secretary of Defense shall supply the committees on armed services of the Senate and House of Representatives with a full accounting of such plans for such experiment or study. And such experiment or study may then be conducted only after the expiration of the 30-day period beginning on the date such accounting is received by such committee. So it would be like the Senate Intelligence Committee. They would know that there are civilians within the United States, right? And in other countries, they would have similar parliamentary bodies or Senate bodies or whatever that would know that we're being experimented on, and it would be justified. They would think it's justified, right? So I'm very worried that the dominoes are not gonna fall, right? And some of you guys may have seen this. I don't know. So unprecedented. I don't want to rule anything out, right? But we got to be ready for everybody kind of shutting their mouths on this and saying, oh, it's for national security. We've got to, crush people's families and murder them and say they did all these things and microwave their brains and get the automated system to work their brain in certain ways and stuff like that. And it's all justified, right? Because it's national security. I want to mention this that, okay, yeah, I mentioned court cases, right? And I think that this has actually happened. I think there have been settlements that have been won, right? Settlements that are sealed, right? Or civil cases. I see where right now, at this moment, if you had an implant that you could bring to court, and you had a good lawyer, you could probably, and like knew the hospital that implanted or something, I can't remember his name. I can't remember his name. But targeted individuals who actually had actual implants have received sealed settlements, right? But there's no way that you can go to not a civil court, like just a regular court or the Supreme Court, and win a case that's going to set precedent because everything's going to fall under national security, and they're gonna just like it cannot be public. You can get a settlement that's sealed, or I think that we could maybe win in civil court, but that money that we would receive would be sealed, right? Because it's under national security. So it's why I'm always talking about this, and I think a lot of people are kind of on board with this. The big thing that we always talk about is awareness, because we've got to get these national security protections off of this experimentation. I think that it's very strategic, right? And we know this, that they're going to help out, CIA agents and governmental workers being hit with this stuff because in a lot of cases they're being hit by other countries, and they want to know what these other countries, are hitting them with. They want to find out more about that. It's really for selfish reasons that they're helping these governmental workers to find out more about what other countries how other countries are using these weapons, right? But I think it's going to leave us out in the cold. Maybe a miracle will happen. Miracles do happen, but what I'm seeing and what I'm reading and what the knowledge base is here is that these Congress people already know. So when they get our emails, the State Department already knows this is a lot of people know about this, and they're like, it's okay because it's for national security, right? A lot more people than I thought know about this. Um, and if they're going to do this experimentation, like we're talking about not just targeting with remote microwave weapons, we're talking about biometric testing, right? We're talking about these jabs having nanotechnology in them, other things, radiology experiments and radiation experiments and things like that. They just have to notify local government, right? So I want to bring y'all back, and some of y'all know this story, but some of y'all don't. I called the FBI a bunch of times. I called the cops out to my house, the house that eventually burned down, trying to get help because I was being hit with remote microwaves, with non-ionizing microwave radiation, which eventually led me to calling the inspector general. Now, the inspector general is the guy who's over the whole, the city police, right? He's over the whole city police. He is a local, he's like local government. He's what would be considered local law enforcement, but he's in a high position. He would have to be notified of my experimentation, of everybody's experimentation in the area. He has to be notified of it. So like I thought that I was calling the inspector general and he didn't know about this and he thought I was crazy. So then I got the ex FBI agent in the coroner's office calling me and going, "Yeah, yeah, we know about that. Come on into the hospital," right? And they set me up. I'll tell you why I know they set me up, not just because the ex FBI agent in the coroner's office, weird that he's an ex FBI agent and he's the one tasked with getting me to the hospital so then they can throw me into the mental institution, right? But the place that they threw me in, and I'm sitting there talking to a nurse practitioner, just like this, right? And they sent me to the ward where people couldn't even use the bathroom or feed themselves, right? So that's how I know it was a setup. But in my thinking, I was like, well, the inspector general must just not have known about this. But reading about the rules of involuntary human experimentation on mass scales, right? And they have writing about this, they have legislation, right? But then they have legislation. I'll show you this article. They have legislation saying, after World War II, we made very, very strict laws on what's it called? On just letting the person know that they're being experimented on, right? But that's not true. They still do involuntary. So there's like one set of national security rules where they can experiment on populations, and everyone, if it's for national security, they just have to notify local government, right? And then there's like things where they're saying, oh, ethical human experimentation, and that's just for show, right? That's just for show to the public. If the public looks into it, the public will go, oh, no, no, there has to be consent, right? And at this point, I want to say we do not consent, right? I do not consent to remote microwave torture, directed energy weapon torture, neuroweapons torture. It's brutal on my brain. I know that like I'm letting go and I'm giving it to God. Doesn't mean I'm going to stop fighting at all, but it's so bad that God's going to have to find me a way, right? I'm going to get a path. There's going to be certain forms of this technology that are actually good that can maybe correct our brain therapeutically. So there's a lot of things. That's just like one angle. Then the program coming out more and changes being made, unprecedented times. So I don't know how that's going to roll out or anything, but I do have hope. I have hope in Christ. I have hope in God. That's where it starts, right? And then amazing things can happen that we don't see. And that's happened to me the whole time. Now, I'm at a point now where my organics, right, my organic brain, my organic body is so tired that I'm depressed, right? I'm not organically depressed. My attackers are doing this to me, but I have organic, like my body's so tired from being tortured in my sleep and tortured all the time, and then they're steering my brain on certain things, right? Not my choices. They will never affect my choices, but emotions and how you feel and everything like that. I don't really want to get into the complexities of remote neural manipulation, but so this is disappointing to me. I'm gonna look into a lot of stuff a lot more legally. We need to get our legalese down, and I think that if we can use the right terminology and things like that and talk to people, it can really change things because the system is all about um, rules, right? And that's not very good for me. I don't think it's a very good thing for a lot of you guys. We have to use these rules to change things, right? To change things. I don't know. It's so big, everything it's a complete takedown of the global population. Asymmetrical warfare. Nobody wants to nobody outside of people that do know that want to talk about that. Um, Also, I'm very worried that not a lot more people are talking about a global weapons grid because we have a global communications grid, and the whole time that the global communications grid was being built, global weapons grid was being intertwined in that. And I'm very, very worried. Maybe a lot of people are talking about it, and it's like their information's not boosted up. But I'm going to be finding a lot more information to put some pieces together. Just thinking about that. Let me go through this. I got a lot of thoughts right now, guys. I haven't made a video in a while. But let me go through this and make a short video, and then I'll make another video. We're gonna connect some things. We're gonna work on some things, and um, just my thought about how I approached when I was targeted, right? When I knew I was overtly targeted, because I'm not sure before that how the targeting was. It affected me, but I didn't know it was going on. But when I knew I was being overtly targeted, my first thing was confront. Like, I'm gonna go up against this. I didn't know how big it was, right? You learn how big it is, like as you're going along. But it was confront, then fix. Then I want to fix this, right? We've been making videos. Like, I mean, David throwing stones at the giant is what I'm doing because this is so big, right? We're all kind of doing that. I think even the bigger organizations are kind of doing that, but getting a lot of stuff done. So confront and then fix. And now I'm kind of in the. This is a bad metaphor. This is a bad metaphor because I don't want to use a gun metaphor, but I kind of want to like Star Wars laser gun or something like that. At the beginning, I'm running towards, confronting it, shooting my laser weapon. That's a bad metaphor too, but y'all know what I mean, right? Like you're in a gunfight and I'm running towards it and I'm shooting. And then it's like I'm moderating conference calls and doing the videos and everything like that. And the torture's really bad, so I end up, kind of getting behind a trash can and keeping shooting, right? I'm getting behind trash cans, stop moderating the calls, kind of get on the videos, and then I'm trying to fix it like that. Now, so the third thing, escape, escape, and that doesn't mean like just this is a very hard thing to escape, but I want to escape, confront, and fix at the same time. And I want to just give you the metaphor that's running while you're shooting behind you, right? So what I mean by that is, I don't trust our Congress, and I don't trust the UN has to know about these things. Like the UN has to know about these USC codes that say, okay, you can experiment on a lot of your population in states. You just need to let local government know about it. You need to let the local elected officials know that you're going to be doing it in that area, right? They have to be informed. So a lot of people know that we're being murdered by remote microwaves, I think. They don't understand the scope, but I think they are told, right? A lot of you like were privy to this all along. I didn't want to believe it, right? I kind of did believe it, didn't believe it, but I was like, some people have to not know. Um, I forgot what I was talking about before, but it was really important. So the escape, you're kind of like running and you're shooting behind you, right? That's a bad metaphor because I don't want to use gun metaphors, but and that entails some things that I'm thinking about. Um, I just do not trust our government to fix this because they are not. I mean, this is state sponsored experimentation. This is government, like, so people like they're always like, no, this can't be government, and I'm like, well, no, it's not. It's the military industrial complex, and the government really doesn't know about it. It's worse than that. The government does know about it. This is state sponsored human experimentation with these things. Um, and I'm not sure how much of the like vast human experimentation, like with the jab and nanotechnology, and toxins and smart dust and other biological agents. I'm not sure how much Congress knows about that. Um, so much human experimentation going on, like way more than just targeted individuals being hit with neuro weapons and directed energy weapons, right? A lot of biomedical testing, bioweapons testing, chemical testing, and it's been going on. Human experimentation has been going on way before World War II, and then actually kind of ramped up after World War II, where some documents say, oh, everything's good now, and there must be consent from the party being experimented on, right? But that's not the truth. The real truth can be found in the NSA, the USC codes that say it's okay as long as everybody's notified, right? And Congress allocates money, congressional committees with respect to experiments and studies. So I think that the Senate Intelligence Committee knows that we're being experimented on. I don't think they're going to do anything about it until we can get enough awareness out about I think it's safe for them to go, oh, these other countries are hitting you know, special agents and CIA agents. It's other countries, right? So it's safe for them to say 100 and something people have reported it or whatever. But I don't think they're ever, because they already knew about experimentation on us. They're not learning about it. And so I wanted to correct that, because I thought that this would be new for Congress, you know. So where was I on this? Okay. The Secretary, okay, I think I read this, but I want to read it again. The Secretary of Defense may not conduct any test or experiment involving the use of any chemical or biological agent on civilian populations unless local civilian officials in the area in which the test or experiment is to be conducted are notified in advance of such test or experiment, and such test or experiment may then be conducted only after the expiration of the 30-day period beginning on the date of such notification. This is talking about civilian populations, guys, involving the use of any chemical or biological agent on civilian populations. And that ain't, these civilian populations, right, aren't are not giving consent for experimentation. So it's a slippery slope, and then it's started to be just experimenting on everyone, right? Yeah, unprecedented evil. Okay, so paragraph 1 shall apply to tests and experiments conducted by Department of Defense personnel and tests and experiments conducted on behalf of the Department of Defense by contractors. So look at this, guys, and listen to what I'm saying, right? When I say contractors are doing this under the Department of Defense, the NSA, CIA, they've got their contractors under them, contractors manufacturing the weapons, and also torturing citizens and mapping the brain and doing weird stuff to the brain, creating false flag shootings, you know, because if you mind control somebody, and then they think they're in defense mode, and then they go out and like do something, it's a false flag because they've created that with experimentation and technology, right? I mean, these are obvious things. I don't know why I'm talking like that. I feel weird from the targeting, right? um it's been really rough. I do feel, well, I won't go into that. I want to make some shorter videos, and it's going to be tough. We're going to have to compromise at first. They may be a couple minutes long, because I wanted to show you guys this. Okay, we're at like 22 minutes. But listen to this, guys. Okay, so paragraph 1 shall apply to tests and experiments conducted by Department of Defense personnel and tests and experiments conducted on behalf of the Department of Defense by contractor, right? So that's who they use. Now I want to show y'all something that's interesting and can tell us a lot about who's doing the experimentation, like the kind of the organizations at the top, right? Okay, so I'm definitely going to put this in the description right here. And if anybody can find, let me show you guys something real quick. I didn't want to make a long video today. Um, so on this, like I watched, oh God, I watched the whole thing. This is a great interview. This is a really entertaining interview, and Alex Jones said a lot of stuff that like I was thinking about before I even heard him say it, about like kind of the big picture things. So it's a really interesting look. 27 million views. I watched this like right when it came out. Um, there was a part in this interview. There's some parts that I'm going to show on later videos because there's some very interesting stuff he said about his dad being recruited by DARPA to put implants in people's teeth because his dad's a dentist, right? Very interesting. And then I talked to some people about like, is Alex Jones like just a for real guy? No, he's not. No, he's not. He's not working directly for the CIA or directly for anything, but there are organizations that control information. I think that he's not only a gatekeeper, he's a but see, this is why you want to watch Alex Jones, is because he's allowed to tell a lot of the truth. I don't know why, but they are allowing him to say a lot of stuff, to put a lot of stuff out there that's very true. I guess because they've labeled him a conspiracy theorist in the public, so there's no real danger of like the majority of the public getting into what he's saying. But then he has a lot of viewers, right, that are awakened that can see, right? That can see what's going on. My concern is that people like Alex Jones, not him independently, but with remote neural monitoring, they can surveil and then remote neural monitor and maybe pick out people to target who are going towards that information, right? That's a concern of mine. How it's like learning the truth is very good, but even that has been weaponized. Like bringing people in to learn the truth and then like, okay, these are the people that are going to move towards the truth. We're going to go ahead and start surveilling them. Which ones are kind of getting into the most dangerous stuff that we don't want out there? We'll remote neural monitor them and then start targeting them, right? So corralling people into certain pins is my worry. But Alex Jones is so big now, I don't. It's like I would think about that at the beginning of when he was speaking out. I know a lot of you guys, it's going to be unpopular because a lot of you guys probably love Alex Jones. I love Alex Jones. He's entertaining no matter what you think about him. He's entertaining no matter what you think about him, and he tells like massive truths. They're allowing him to tell massive truths about just the system and everything. But um, he comes from a family that's connected to trying to control people and things like that. I'll go through that more. Don't give me a thumbs down if you like Alex Jones. I like Alex Jones too. I'll do kind of a video on that just by itself. But my point was on this video, Joe Rogan Experience number 1255, Alex Jones Returns. I watched this right when it came out, and Alex Jones was talking about human hybrids, right? Pig and man, and a goat and man, and cow and man, where they're making like people mixed with animals, and they're really doing this stuff. And he talks about Nick Begich. He talks about Nick Begich and directed energy and things like that. But he also, at the beginning, I swear at the beginning of this interview, he talks about a USC code that was made right after World War II that said that for national security reasons, any citizen can be experimented on, hurt, tortured, killed if it has to do with national security, right? I go back. This is a 5 hour interview, and this is how much I've watched, right? And it was at the beginning. They edited it out, and I can't find it. Like I should have grabbed it then. I gotta go back, and I don't know if I'm gonna do that, but I may have shown it on one of my previous videos. If I may have missed it. I may have missed it. But if any of you guys know what I'm talking about, the USC code for America that was like right after World War II that said that they could experiment, torture, kill citizens if it had to do with national security, right? So we're dealing with a lot of that veil of national security. We all know this, right? But that's why it's so important to get the awareness out, because the only thing that we're going to be able to do legally with that is to get probably maybe a civil case can be won, but it will be sealed, right? That means no one can know about it, and you won't be able to talk about it. You'll be gagged, right? Or a settlement in a regular court, but that will also be sealed, and you will be gagged because of national security, right? So you guys see the problem. I think that's why there's so much problem getting a class action that's successful, or any of the TIs going to the Supreme Court and winning a case, right? Some of you guys, this may be obvious to. Some of you guys maybe hadn't thought about it this way. So it. And one person, like, actually, I'm kind of getting off track here. Um, but one person actually did it out, like everything in it. And I promise, like I watched this, and he said, and like that part was like edited out, and I couldn't even tell. Like they can edit stuff out, and it's so seamless, right? But it was edited out, and I can't find it anywhere on the internet. I can only find the 1994 code, but I'm wondering if the 1994 code was like an amendment to that one after World War II, right? Okay, so let's not spend too much time on this. I wanted to read a little bit, and everything that I'm going over, um, I might not go over all of it because there's a lot of stuff to read, but I'll put it in the description for you guys to look at. This is our enemy, right? The national security and how they say we can just experiment on anybody, and it's grown to where they're saying, well, we can kill and experiment on the whole population for national security reasons. Well, what's the point of national security if you're not protecting the citizens of your country? What's the point? If you're just experimenting them and dismembering them and microwaving them and messing with their brains, what's the point of national security? You're murdering the people that you're saying you have national security for, right? So we obviously know it's like not for us. The system they're trying to build is not for middle class or lower class or even upper class. It is a breakaway civilization, right? That they're trying to build. That I think they already have kind of built, and now they're feeding off of us and experimenting on us. Alex Jones talks a lot about that. He speaks the truth. Let me tell you that. So anybody who thinks that I don't like Alex Jones, he's entertaining. He speaks the truth. But he's kind of like a poster child that they can emulate, set on fire, and the public thinks he's crazy and he's telling all these truths. Some people know that, right? So what I'm saying is I do believe that Alex Jones is like kind of the psyop king. He's the psyop information king. He's entertaining. He says very, very true stuff, but I'm not sure what dangers are behind that, right? Um, could just be to see who it could just be to see who listens to the truth and believes it. But I wanted to show you guys this. I've just been looking into a whole lot of like kind of USC codes about human experimentation. Um, there's a lot that goes into this. There's a lot of organizations, local organizations in states, and then federal organizations for protection of human research subjects, right? And we may want to be getting in touch with them and causing a stir with them, right? Um, it's just man. I thought we would have heard by now because so many people sent in testimonies. I thought we would have heard something from the UN. Maybe I missed something, right? Um, the UN has everything it needs in the USC codes. In other codes, countries will have these same codes that say they can experiment on anybody. And so, how does the UN look at these things that are on paper, right? Does the UN say, oh, well, that's justified involuntary research and experimentation and torture, but we want to get rid of the it seems like any experimentation can be justified under national security for any country. It just seems like they've just said, "Oh, well, we can just torture and kill anybody." We wrote this thing that the public's not going to see about it. But so this is testimony before the Legislation and National Security Subcommittee, Committee on Government Operations, House of Representatives, Human Experimentation, and Overview on Cold War Era Programs. This is a statement of Frank C. Conahan, Assistant Comptroller General, National Security and Internal Affairs Division. I want to show y'all. I can't read a bunch of it. It's pretty long, but I'll put it in the description here. So just listen to this. Okay, so Mr. Chairman and members of the subcommittee, we are pleased to be here today to discuss the use of humans in tests and experiments conducted for national security purposes by the Department of Defense and other agencies between 1940 and 1974. So like 1941 was kind of the end of World War II, right? Or 1942, maybe 1943. I don't remember the exact year that it ended, but um, other countries were doing experimentation on their prisoners and mental patients long before World War II, right? And so they kind of went from people that mental patients and people in prisons, oh, we can experiment on them and do anything we want to them. And also black men, too, with the Tuskegee experiments, too. But the Tuskegee experiments were going on globally, and they just kind of focused in on those and said, oh, they just gave them they just didn't cure the syphilis, but they actually gave the syphilis to them. Um, I forgot my point on that. See that's like an array. That's like a targeting of my active memory because I need my active memory to remember, like to have conversations and say things, and so they attack that. There's a lot of different like I think some people. Well, let's not get off onto that. But okay, so Crazy, crazy way to say this. We are pleased to be here today to discuss the use of humans in tests and experiments conducted for national security purposes by the Department of Defense and other agencies between 1940 and 1974. And we know it's only gotten worse after 1974, you know, with remote microwaves. The more that they can make it invisible, and the main thing to make it look natural, right? To make it fit in with people who do really have mental illness. It's a very important thing. And giving somebody a heart attack so it looks like a natural heart attack because they're playing God, right? This breakaway civilization that wants to feed on us, right? And these organizations, it's basically the top of the pyramid in certain organizations. They want to use us for fuel and learn a lot about stuff, right? And just microwave our bodies and our brains, right? Destroy our families and just kind of use that, what kind of data they can get out of it as kind of rocket fuel for them. Alex Jones talks a lot about that, and I think that is the plan. I don't know if that's how it's going to go down, but that is the plan of a lot of these groups at the top of the pyramid, you know, to kind of just use us and experiment on us. I don't know how things got to this way. It seems like we've slipped into like a really negative dimension or something like that. I know that that's not true. A lot of these things, it's a build up. They were building up their power. They were building up the infrastructure, building up finances, building up centralized control, right? So I think a lot of people are like, well, this has to, you know, I think it fits into biblical prophecies, but it is a very secular way that they did it with the help of Satan, with the help of literally, you know, I won't get into that right now because we got to go through this. I got a lot of want to say. I should have just done a video and just gotten it all out. Um, but let's read this. As you requested, we collected information on the scope of these experiments and their possible impact. We obtained information on one, the magnitude and scope of human subject experimentation; two, the potential effects of the experiments on human subjects; three, government efforts to assist those who may have been injured or suffered adverse health effects as a result of the test or experience. I want that. Get me that. Is that on the menu? I need that. I need that right now because I'm gonna have to go get medical help. My brain's doing things that feels like Alzheimer's, but it's like if my attackers took the crap off, took the bidirectional stream and the electromagnetic field around my head, like all the protocols they're using to do that, if they took it off, I'd be fine. I'd be fine. So it's like I got to get medical help for certain things. Also got to stop vaping because vaping, it has propylene glycol. It causes inflammation in the body, and it's causing trouble like not breathing as good, right? And if your brain's not getting as much oxygen, the remote neural manipulation is going to be more effective, right? That's why they do sleep deprivation and stuff like that, where your body's not working as good, um, things aren't flowing as well to the brain, and then the targeting of the brain is more effective. Um, okay, so in yeah, I think number three is a lie. Government efforts to assist those who have been injured, they try to deny it as much as they can, and then people have to go to court to get settlements and things, to get money from the government for what they've done to them and their families. Number four, measures to ensure that informed consent is secured and that volunteers are protected in government sponsored experiments. And that is not happening. That is a lie, right? But I want it to read the big thing that I want it to read is who's involved. Okay, the background. As you requested, these are experiments from 1940 to 1974, right? As you requested, we focused our work on defense-affiliated programs that used human test subjects between 1940 and 1974. The programs included tests and experiments conducted or sponsored by the departments of the Army, the Navy, and the Air Force, the Defense Nuclear Agency, which is maybe something different now. Maybe that's like DARPA now. The Central Intelligence Agency. I don't know. I don't know. It seems like that would have turned into a different organization, but I don't think it's DARPA. The Central Intelligence Agency, the Department of Energy, right? And y'all have heard me talk about the Department of Energy sometimes on here, but the Department of Energy is interested in this experimentation with us too and puts money into it, right? The Department of Energy, that's like a governmental body, right? Is that it's not privatized? Department of Energy. No, that's the a governmental. That's like a governmental body right there. And the Department of Health and Human Services. The tests and experiments involved radiological, chemical, and biological research and were conducted to support weapon development programs, which is what they're doing to us with remote microwaves, directed energy weapons, neuro weapons. It may seem like revenge. It may seem like your neighbors are just screwing around with you, hitting you with microwaves. That's how mine started out. Like I thought it was revenge, but now since it's going on so long, they're focusing on experimentation on my brain, which is a fact. I know when I go into the details of it, maybe some of you guys are kind of like, yeah, I don't know if you really know, but the fact is, hardcore experimentation to the brain. Right now, if it was just my neighbors want revenge, and this is going on for like, the over torture, 11 years or whatever, they wouldn't be working on my brain. They wouldn't be getting more extensive experimentation on the specificities of my memory, targeting my memory, emotion, personality, and everything like that, right? That doesn't make sense. But a lot of you guys who are at the beginning, you're like, this is just, they're just, my neighbor's messing around with me. It's part of the protocol of trauma and isolation and everything, and not trying to not, um, trying to not let on what it really is very important. Is very important at the beginning, right? I think trying not to let on to what it is very important throughout it. But a lot of us, we figure it out anyway, right? Because it's so intense, and we're looking into the research, and they write about these things. I'm going to be looking for more of the writings that the public's not really going to be privy to, and they're going to talk about this stuff. Um, so the tests and experiments involved radiological, chemical, and biological research and were conducted to support weapon development programs. So listen to that carefully. Identify methods to protect the health of military personnel, right? So a lot of this they're doing to us. We're using defenses. They're seeing what we're doing, and they're like, how could that help our soldiers, right? If they're hit with this stuff, and they don't give a crap about us, right? The people being targeted. We're just like, oh, your life is over, and you're being targeted. That's what they think. That ain't what God thinks, though. Identify methods to protect the health of military personnel against a variety of diseases and combat conditions, and analyze U.S. defense vulnerabilities. So I don't want to read all this. This is like a history kind of the United States and what they've done to people involuntarily after World War II, right? So they've always experimented on the population, but somehow the population that's maybe not being experimented on or doesn't know they're being experimented on is like, that's cuckoo, like that they would just hit citizens with microwaves. Y'all aren't important enough, right? Wide scale experimentation on the civilian population, it's not really about being a great actor, politician. I don't know, who else is important. A king would be important. I don't know. Like everything's shifted in this world where I see politicians and they're morons, and I'm like, they're important. That they're just like cogs. It's just like they're like a human robot that's controlled, right? Not literally, but basically, but basically a puppet. Y'all like this pink shirt? I wore this to my grandmother's wake. Really miss her. We're cleaning. We're like moving stuff out of her house, and I'm like gonna get a lot of my grandfather's clothes. I was listening to Alex Jones. Well, I don't want to get too far off, but I thought about this stuff, before I listened to that interview. It's really interesting. Like if you, it's a long one if you want to watch pieces of it, but he says like our ancestors, they're part of us because our genetics. It's like everything that's passed on from all of our ancestors is like in our DNA, things that they've experienced, and I think even when they're gone, it's like they're wrapped all around us. He says this, and like I felt that and experienced that and was thinking that before. So a lot of things that he said, it's like I really thought about those things, and I think he's telling a lot of the truth. I think he's telling all the truth. I think they allow him to just tell the truth, right? Because that's not the important part of his job. You know, I know. Don't give me thumbs down. I love Alex Jones. I know a lot of you guys love Alex Jones. I love him too, but he's not fully above board. And let's just use our common sense on that. If Alex Jones is like telling all this truth, and he was like the big dude who's like, they have directed energy weapons, he knows about them. Would they just give him a heart attack? People would, if Alex Jones had a heart attack, people would go, ah, yeah, he ate a lot of steaks and he drank a lot and probably some other stuff too, you know. Which I don't want him to die. I like Alex Jones. That's a weird thing. It's a weird thing, even though I have very very huge suspicions of what he's actually doing. That's not what this video is about, though. It's not what this video is about. We may do some on that. Alex Jones is just really really entertaining, you know. Hands down, hands down. Okay, so I just wanted to show you all that. I'm going to put it in the description, but I wanted to show those people who are involved in the experimentation. And it's very interesting that the Department of Energy is involved in that experimentation, right? Very, very interesting. And then I wanted to show you guys this, and I'm going to put these three things. Let's go to this real quick. I just wanted to go to this story real quick. Senate okays bill that would provide aid for mysterious Savannah syndrome injuries. We've read a lot of these articles, and I just kind of wanted to go in there and listen to the passion of these politicians here. Far too many Havana syndrome victims have had to battle the bureaucracy to receive care for their debilitating injuries. American personnel who have undergone these attacks while serving our country should be treated the same way that we would treat a soldier who suffered a traumatic injury on the battlefield. Maine Republican Senator Susan Collins, a co-author of the bill, said in the statement. Now she's very passionate about this, getting medical help for like special agents and governmental workers, like a war hero on the battlefield that's been injured. What about us? What about citizens who never agreed to this? It just ad nauseum, right? I'm saying this stuff, but I guess we've just got to say it over and over again. We're soldiers. We've been fighting. We've been fighting torture, trying to live our lives. We've been cut off from our families in some instances. Luckily, not me, but still, it's very difficult with my family. Like the funeral and everything was very difficult because my attackers were like running my brain. That's the only way I can say it, amping up my brain, right? And making me real stressed out and stuff. And I want to be there to comfort other family members and mourn my grandmother. They even get involved in that, right? And that's an obvious thing that I think we've all experienced. Whenever there's a bad situation in your life, they want to make it worse. They want to intensify it, and it also does it acts as it mixes in with that really bad natural thing that's happening to you, right? So they're very big on so my dad, he started getting attacked. He had an aneurysm, survived from that, survived miraculously. But then they're like, okay, we can do a bunch of stuff to his brain because it's just going to be like he's even going to think like my dad, and I'm not going to go into that. He doesn't think he's targeted. I do. I think my mom, my aunt, and my dad are targeted. But anyway, it's like they try and hide it in things that have already happened, things that are bad, right? So something goes bad in your life, they're going to hit you harder because it can be naturally explained away, right? And we know all this stuff is supposed to fit naturally into mental illness. It's supposed to look like mental illness. I mean, they really worked hard on that. So I just wanted to show how passionate she is. But from the USC codes that I'm reading, Susan Collins knows that they're doing involuntary experimentation on civilian populations with these weapons. So does she? Maybe not. Like the way she's talking about it, it doesn't seem like she knows about it. It doesn't seem like she's a liar either. But I guess all politicians are liars. And I want them saying stuff like this about us. so that we can get medical care, so that we can get compensated for the years of our lives lost, or trying to live your life through the trauma and the torture, right? Like that needs to come, but seeing these USC codes that are the veil of national security covers these things, I don't think they're going to be chomping at the bit to help us. And I don't see how the UN does not know about these things, right? I'm just talking and thinking right now. This is all unprecedented stuff, and I believe in miracles, and I believe we can find a lot of things to push us forward and things like that. God can. God can. So I'm going to put the information out. It's unprecedented. I've got to trust in God a lot, especially with what they're doing to my brain, and just hope that he kind of speaks through me, so we can get some good information, at least be informed while we're fighting this. Um, it's not enough. I know we're being tortured, like so many people are being tortured all over the globe. They just had I need to do a video. There's a lot of birds that are dying in specific states in the United States. And some people right away were like radio frequencies, right? Because bees and birds use the electromagnetic spectrum. They use like ley line, well, not ley lines, but the way that electromagnetic currents flow in the air and stuff like that, and they use those to migrate. Like I think some people thought it was like what's it called, epigenetics, where it's like a bird will just remember from its like father and mother bird where it migrated, but I don't think it's that. I think it's electromagnetic. They use like an electromagnetic GPS to be able to migrate to certain places, and the weather, of course, but it gives them a GPS of the direction to go in, right? And so they're all dropping dead because there's this huge, remember, there's a communications grid that has been built over years and years and years all over the globe, different countries. In the meantime, they were intertwining satellites to work as weapons, a weapon system, right? And then they've got things on the ground, microwave towers, radar, drones, all kinds of stuff, wind towers, things that run underground, smart meters, and everything to build this weapons grid that can hit anybody in the world, right? Woven within that communications grid. Um, so it's big. So it's big, but God is also big. And we just gotta fight for what's right. Evil's like really coming out at the debutante ball, right? And I think that good, well, we've read it. We've read it in the good book, and we know that God can fix this lickety split. And maybe evil has to run ramshod for certain reasons. I've thought, let's not get into this, but I've thought about like maybe God is allowing evil to traumatize us, for something in the future, right? That He needs us for. I don't know. Let's not get into that right now. We can get into it later, but I just wanted to show this and show her passion, and then show how everybody's staying quiet about all the civilians that are being tortured and their brains are being like unraveled. Like my neurologically, this is very dangerous for my brain, and I feel that. Um, so very passionate. Far too many Havana syndrome victims have had to battle the bureaucracy to receive care for their debilitating injuries. American personnel who have undergone these attacks while serving our country should be treated the same way we would treat a soldier who suffered a traumatic injury on the battlefield. What about me? And what about my viewers, right? See, this is the time that I want the live stream. I miss the live streams, guys. I miss the live streams. Can't do them though. Can't do them, and gotta get a. I'm gonna be practicing shorter videos and stuff like that, so I can still get information out. Okay, we've been going about an hour. Wow, that's crazy. I didn't know it was about an hour. Okay, so let me get to this last thing I want to show you guys. This is a very interesting article. I'm going to put this in the description right here. So it's talking about after World War II, after the Nazis did all the experimentations and the concentration camps. I want to go to, I can't read the whole thing. I guess we can read some of it. Okay, so it's easy in retrospect to portray World War II as a major turning point in the history of medical ethics, but it's a portrayal we should resist. And let me wait. Let's go to the what the article's called. What's the name of the article? Two steps forward, one step back, right? And I would say two steps forward with the ending of World War II, but a million steps back, like the beginning of like mass experimentation and mass torture and mass just people losing their rights to even live, not being tortured, right? Or to live, to even live sometimes. How World War II changed how we do human research, and this article is trying to say like it's actually good. It's actually good. Let me read it because it's actually saying like they did all these things and said, oh, we're gonna have just voluntary experimentation, blah blah. And then he says, no, that didn't happen. Involuntary experimentation blossomed after this, right? So let me read some of it. It's easy in retrospect to portray World War II as a major turning point in the history of medical ethics, but it's a portrayal we should resist because it blinds us to the troubles that persist to this day in matters of informed consent. When Germany surrendered in May 1945, the victors' worst fears were confirmed. The Nazis had committed innumerable and horrific war crimes, including the attempt to annihilate the Jewish people. So severe were the depredations of Hitler and his henchmen and women that new words were invented to describe their actions. Genocide was a new word invented there. We're going to have to invent some new words for what we're going through because the torture is so long term and it's in your sleep and it's just all the time and it's so severe that like just torture doesn't really cut it. It has to be like some kind of um, like long term traumatic. I don't know. Like we have to figure out new words because this is like way worse than any torture. Um, Genocide, the obliteration of an entire people, and thanatology. That's weird. Thanatology, the science of producing death. Yeah, and Thanatos means death. Thanos. Thanos is kind of just a derivation of that. As the extermination camps in Nazi-occupied Poland and the concentration camps in Germany were liberated, the scale of human destruction wrought by Nazi ideology both confounded and shocked. But in their efforts to reap the benefits of Nazi scientific research, intelligence officers rapidly discovered the devastation of human medical experimentation. It's devastating. Devastating to humanity, devastating to our collective psyche, devastating to it's devastating to the divinity that's connected to us, right? Because it makes some people in society disconnect from it and not believe in it. It disconnects us from our Creator, right? On those levels, and hands us up to a very low resonance. You want to call them demons and Satan, and go ahead and do that, but like something very real, right? Yeah, I call them demons and Satan. Um, so Nuremberg trials, we know what the Nuremberg trials were. Jews, political prisoners, and other undesirables were subjected to a range of experiments that resulted in death and disability. The Luftwaffe, for instance, wished to know how to protect and revive pilots shot down in the sea who suffered from hypothermia. The Nazi solution was to immerse experimental subjects in freezing water to the point of death and beyond. So let's go down. So they did a lot of experimentation, and okay, check this out. This is horrifying. These examples are the tip of the iceberg. Experiments with transplants, bacteria, gases, and other chemical agents were carried out on thousands of hapless prisoners. Worst of all was the T4 program, which paved the way for the destruction of all life unworthy of life. So playing God and saying this person that's alive, they are unworthy of life. And that's what they do to us, targeted individuals. You know, on a lot of us, they just say you're not really worthy of life. You maybe smoked pot in an apartment, or you yelled at somebody, or you got into a fight or something like that, or you dated a policeman or a military guy who you broke up with, and then they're like, oh, you broke up with me, you're not worthy of life anymore, right? So crazy, crazy the way that they're determining, hey, you don't deserve to not be tortured for the rest of your life, is just insane. And it's really like people in the Masons and these contractors kind of just pick people, just kind of pick people who are convenient. It's really bad. So the T4 program, which paved the way for the destruction of all life unworthy of life between 1939 and 1941. Thousands of disabled and mentally ill people were euthanized using a variety of techniques, including mass gassing, a method that was later transferred to the extermination camps. So what I want to read down here, we know they did the Nuremberg trials, and then the Geneva Convention. This final point was undeniable, but the most interesting was the final defense, which claimed what the Nazi doctors had done was little different from the experiments carried out by the Allies on their own prison populations, inmates of mental asylums, conscientious objectors. Right? So conscientious objector would be somebody who doesn't want us to go to war and objects to like tyrannical things that the country's doing, right? And troops. And troops. This final point was undeniable. In both the United States and Britain, experiments have been carried out on vulnerable groups. In 1941, for instance, patients at a Michigan State mental hospital were deliberately infected with the influenza virus. In the early 1940s, predominantly African American prisoners at the Statesville Penitentiary were deliberately infected with malaria. Right, and then also the Tuskegee experiments, which were later on. These are only two of the many experiments carried out on vulnerable populations, people who could not be said to have freedom to consent. And it's still going on today, and it's going on more. This is saying that is dumb. It's still going on today, and it's still going mass experimentation on the population. Now, this targeting, I don't know how many people are being targeted, like intensely, and their brains being targeted, and people are coming in their house, maybe trying to poison them, external microwave hits, gang stalking, the whole shamoli, right? I don't know. I don't know the percentage of the population. Could be 50% that are intensely targeted. Could be 2%, right? I don't know. 2% would be a lot of people. It'd be like millions of people. It'd be like millions of people just in America. So 2% of the global population would be millions and millions of people. Not over 100 million, I don't think. No, it would be over 100 million. It would be over 100, but we're not sure on those numbers. Like I don't know how we get sure on those numbers. Um, we can kind of guesstimate, but it's like trying to figure out an unknown unknown. You know, how many people are they doing it to? Because if it was a thing where people kind of knew it was going on and they wanted to really keep it on the down low, they keep it at like 1.5 to 2% of the population, right? So the rest of the population wouldn't know. But since everybody's so dumb and the pandemic has occurred and they're running all these psyops and everything, who knows that they're up in that percentage, and we don't quite know. We have to ask in the riots and things like that, in the riots and uh, peaceful protests, the peaceful protests, like how many of those people, and then in fights like with the rioters and police, was mass mind control used, especially in Oregon, like especially in Chaz and Oregon, because Oregon is huge on mind control. Oregon is like Oregon, California, and New York are just awful, awful in mind control. Um, so we don't know how many people have been mass affected, right? To get angry and attack the police, or to get more murderous when they're going through the cities and burn down mom and pop stores, or in the streets shooting people now, while our regular police are just attacked, right? That's the worst people we could attack right now. And I get vehicularly stalked by police, but the worst people that we could attack right now are just your local police, because they keep things human, right? And one thing that this system, the top of the pyramid and the master plan, they want to get rid of the human element, the compassion, right? They want to get rid of that. Eventually getting rid of the humans to do these to torture people and to do these things and have robots do it and have robots policing and everything like that. And people would be surprised at how close they are to that. So it was apparent a general code of ethics developing standards for informed consent in human research needed to come out of the trial, so the judges formulated the Nuremberg Code as part of their judgment, which, our attackers are going against the Nuremberg Code and the Geneva Convention. I mean, that's treason. It's global treason because we've made global treaties not to do these things, right? But then they have national security USC code. We can do this, so they just write it. So these organizations just say, no, we can murder our citizens and involuntarily experiment on them, and then they hide that USC code so certain people can see it, right? But the public's not going to be aware of it because they're going to be watching YouTube and um, you know um, transgender gymnasts and I don't know, TikTok, where young girls are like counting how many abortions they've had. They're going to be watching that stuff. I mean, it's like horror bread and circuses, right? It's like all the horrific stuff that's happening in society. We have social media where people are like, okay, you got to get your content out, right? And it becomes the bread and circuses horrific infotainment type. I want to call it a dance, right? But a bad system for getting information out, because it all hinges on things that are um, not really. Oh man, they're making me forget words now. Let's just move on with this. Y'all know what I'm talking about. Y'all know what I'm talking about. You guys, you know what I'm talking about. Um, they used the work of Andrew Ivy, the American Medical Association representative, and psychiatrist and neurologist Leo Alexander, who was appointed to the prosecution team, both of whom had supplied the trial with their own ethical codes. So, okay, the code is generally regarded as the foundation of the World Medical Association's Helsinki Declaration in 1964, which has become the bedrock of ethical standards for human experimentation and informed consent. Everybody ignores that. Like, everybody ignores that global agreement not to torture their citizens involuntarily. They just ignore it. They write their own rules and they go for it. Lawlessness for the top, right? Anarcho tyranny. So I can't go to the bathroom without my attackers V2K in my brain and saying how, oh God, you're using the bathroom. But they can just write their own rules and say, oh, we can murder as many citizens as we want. It's for national security, right? That's an anarcho tyranny. It's what we live in. And they're trying to transform it into, like, not even a technocracy. They're trying to make like maybe two breakaway civilizations, and then just our system will just be used and fed upon. We'll think it's a system, we'll think it's a real system, but they're going to be trying to play God with a breakaway civilization, or maybe two breakaway civilizations. You guys got to listen to that Alex Jones, Joe Rogan podcast. He talks about a lot of it, and I think he's right on the money on a lot of stuff. So, okay, which has become the bedrock of ethical standards for human experimentation and informed consent, which nobody asked me if I wanted to be tortured for my whole life, right? I didn't consent to this. None of you guys consented to this, and yet here we are being experimented on and being tortured. Um, I'd like to say that again. Everybody who's watching this video who's a targeted individual, and myself, we do not consent to remote microwave torture, to directed energy weapon torture, to neuro weapon torture that is devastating to the brain. And God's going to bring me through this. I'm just saying it. I'm not like, I'm going to get through this no matter what. Even if I die, I'm going to get through this with a victorious life, right? That's the mindset that we've got to have. Me and somebody else were talking about, let's see if I can get the names right, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego yesterday. And, there's this there's this verse where they say, even if he does not save us, we believe in him and we have faith in him. And it's like, what does that mean? Even if he doesn't, he's always going to save us. It may not be seen on this world, right? It may not be seen in this world for some of us. There's so many miracles where he's really lifted me up and taken care of my health. I do believe that God works through the secular world, and amazing things can happen, just as we see from the other side. People who are full of evil can do a lot of damage, right? So I do believe in that. Things stayed the same. You see, despite the impact of the Nazi doctor's trial and the promulgation of the new code of ethics, neither the United States nor its European allies adhered to the code until a series of scandals suggested the need for a closer look at how medicine was conducting itself. And then they did not, they still ignored it. So they're writing these stories and saying, well, oh, there was experimentation after World War II till like 1970 something, and then there was a lot of stuff done to stop it and make sure that it's consensual and everything. But as you see, the 1994 U.S. Code, and I think this was amended from the one after World War II. Somebody maybe correct me in the comments. I'm just trying to get this information out, but these USC codes are kind of like they're hard to find. The ones that are really bad for us, it seems like they're hard. And I swear, if you guys can find, if some of you guys have never listened to that Alex Jones Joe Rogan interview, I'll put that in the description too. I listened to every bit of it because I knew I was going to have to go through the beginning of it, and he pulled it up. He actually like I'm thinking maybe it was a different interview. I'm thinking maybe it was a different interview now, but he said a lot of important things in there. I've got some clips that I kind of want to do a little video. Um, but look at this. So they're saying like, oh, they corrected it, and now it's voluntary. We got a 1994 U.S. code that says if you're gonna, and this is talking about mass biological or chemical experimentation on state populations, city populations, civilian populations. You know, um, but I want to read a little bit more of this. It had some interesting stuff at the end here. I'll put this all in the description. Um, Okay, the existence of the code was not enough to halt the Tuskegee syphilis study, in which 400 African American men with syphilis were simply observed through treatment, though treatment was available. That's what they say, but they were injected with syphilis. They say that they just had it and they just didn't treat them, but that's not true. They like gave them syphilis. Or to prevent the Guatemala syphilis experiments, which involve 1,500 children, prisoners, soldiers, sex workers, and psychiatric patients. Neither did it impact the deliberate exposure of military personnel and civilians to radioactive fallout from atomic testing, or the testing of nerve agents and other chemicals or on conscripts at Portondown in the United Kingdom. Clearly, the dictates of the Cold War overrode the post-Nuremberg ethical regime. Yeah. So because there was a Cold War going, they had to do the experimentation to beat the other country, right? And that's what they're telling my attackers, my human operators that microwave me. They go, Russia and China, they're working on these technologies too. We've got to sacrifice this guy and his family. We've got to learn about things as we're trying to advance these weapons. We got to beat these other countries, right? And that's all bull because they're all puppets of a global structure, right? It's getting all this data from all these countries, and there's competition at a certain level where people think they're competing, but at a higher level, they're just playing countries against each other like a chessboard. You know, so things stay the same. Wait, did I? Okay, wait, we were already down here. Okay, I'm stopping vaping, guys. Like I am. This is my last one. This is my last one. I may vape like CBD, but this is my last. Like, dude, these things are addictive. I tried to stop yesterday. Like, I tried to stop. Like, I wasn't gonna buy one, and I felt so much better. Like the pain, the inflammation over here, my headache, and everything felt a lot better. My attackers are still doing some stuff. I felt a lot better. My mom's calling me. She always kind of calls me at weird moments. And her phone is hacked in, and my mom's phone is like hacked into. They all like when I'm around my mom and like I'm messing with her phone or something, it'll start being hacked because it's like they want me to know that my mom is targeted. She doesn't know that, and I don't tell her that because she's under so much stress. Like I'm not telling her anything now unless it's positive, and that it was just like the UN thing, right? What a letdown. Like it's pushed us forward somewhat to where when we talk about this, more people are going to understand that it's happening, right? Because of logic. But I'll tell you what, like after my grandma died, I think it was like the next day or something, me and my brother's friend and my brother and my uncle Chuck. He's not married to my aunt, but he was her like a boyfriend of hers. So he's pretty much part of our family. Um, and I was like, did y'all look into Havana syndrome? And they were like, Havana syndrome, what? Like all of them were like, Havana syndrome, what's that? And I was like, I've been talking about this directed energy stuff for like years. Y'all didn't even look into the mainstream news articles on remote microwave attacks, and they were all like, nah. And then my uncle Chuck, he's like brilliant. He's a chemical engineer. He goes to China. He has tons of money. Like he's rich. He doesn't give me any of it, and that's not and he's not going to be watching this or anything, but he said at that moment, all that stuff sci-fi, you know, all that stuff sci-fi. He's a chemical engineer, people just don't want to know this stuff. Um, okay, so we're going pretty long today, guys. I want to let's see. Yeah, when the Helsinki Declaration was finally released, key principles of the Nuremberg Code and its tight legal language had been watered down, giving more leeway to those conducting human experiments. Still, we are considerably better off today because of it, and should not forget the price that was paid for the institution of an effective ethics. Not effective. They ignore it. Countries are completely ignoring this. They have USC codes to say if you're experimenting on populations and the populations don't know they're being experimented on, you got to at least tell local government, right? They have USC codes. How is the UN not using that? How is the UN not looking at these USC codes that are protected by national security and going, so are those, it's like if it's protected by national security, then it's not really torture because that doesn't make sense. The UN is looking into Guantanamo and Julian Assange and all these things that would say, oh, for national security, we got to remote and monitor Julian Assange and torture him, right? We got to put people in Guantanamo, right? And that's the kind of stuff that Niels Melzer looks into. So I don't see why should we send the UN these USC codes? It seems like they would know about those, right? Um, you just ignore them. It's not like, the Helsinki Declaration was changed a little bit so we could maybe get away with some. No, they just completely ignore the Geneva Convention and the Helsinki Declaration. Perhaps there was a pragmatism in the actions of the United States that undermined their insistence on the prosecution of Nazi medical war crimes. They brought them over to. Yeah, there was a pragmatism. They brought the Nazis over to Russia and the United States, and probably some to China, or wherever, or another place. Project Paperclip, but I think there were a lot more. Like Project Paperclip was like 100 and something to the United States, 100 and something to Russia, but there were thousands of Nazi scientists that they brought over to America and Russia. You know, okay, Nazi and undermine the insistence of prosecution in the Asian theater of the war. The scale of human medical experimentation carried out by the Japan's Unit 731 was also staggering and brutal, and that's where they were just like uh, freezing people's arms off, and just it was like the worst, most cruel experimentation that's ever been done. Hundreds of thousands of lives are thought to have been lost to experiments that tested germ and chemical weapons, but not a single Japanese medical practitioner was held accountable for his actions. I'm gonna go down where it says. Okay, I guess that was pretty much it. Yeah, hundreds of thousands of lives are thought to have been lost to experiments that tested germ and chemical weapons, but not a single Japanese medical practitioner was held accountable for his actions. Had the defendants at the Nuremberg doctor trial known this, the force of their third, I'm sure they knew about it. I'm sure they let any allied country that was doing experimentation was not brought in to any of that. And the Nazis, their experimentation, they were punished for by being brought over to the United States and Russia and and being able to kind of recreate Nazi Germany in our countries. It's not, I mean, not that simplified, but oh, that was their punishment to go have new jobs and be able to live in free America and make more money than my family would ever see. Werner von Braun would have been immeasurably as it. Oh wait, did I read that? What does that even mean? To quote, had the defendants at the Nuremberg doctors trial known this, the force of their third, to quote, appeal to hypocrisy defense would have been immeasurably strengthened. As it was, the disparity between Japan and Germany might explain why, at most, only lip service was paid to the Nuremberg Code. It's always just lip service. They do whatever they want with national security in whatever country you're in. If you're not in America, they have codes like that, like national security, things that the public can read. I've got it. I swear they edited out the USC code that was after World War II because I think there's so much experimentation going on. It would blow up. Maybe I'm wrong. Somebody send me that or comment if you can find that. It might also explain how it was that the code became diluted in the Helsinki Declaration. The judges and the prosecutors at Nuremberg were fully aware of the high stakes, but the implementation of their ethical vision required a political will that was sadly lacking. And the experimentation goes on, and more experimentation goes on today than in any other time in the world on human beings on the globe. And that's fact. That's just a fact. So much biometric experimentation, and then neuroweapons experimentation. Who knows how many brains the NSA is in? And the NSA is probably watching, has access to every computer camera, right? Those are simplistic things, but they can use radar and things to look into the home, and then they can use certain protocols, photonics, optogenetics, bidirectional streams of electromagnetic energy, electromagnetic fields around the brain, scalar, to actually get inside the brain and see what you're thinking in real time, what you're visualizing in real time. And like, we know this is targeted individuals, but this is one of the craziest things to tell people, right? I think it's even crazier than V2K to say they're turning people into cameras. They're turning people all over the world into cameras because remote neural monitoring is getting a signal from the occipital lobe or the visual cortex, right? I think the occipital lobe, because I think what you're seeing is directly, like, your eye nerves go all the way to the occipital lobe, and it gets that immediate visual. And your visual cortex is where you work with visualization after you see things in real time, right? So I think they're getting that signal from the occipital lobe, right? Makes it very interesting how they're doing all these VR things where it's hooked to the occipital lobe. It's reading neurological activity of the occipital lobe. So what's that feeding back, right? People are not thinking even about back doors to these technologies, like these wireless ear headphones, like all this, the neurological things they're going to have with VR, where it reads your neurological activity, and you think you're just controlling the game, but they're going to collect that data because your game system is going to be wireless, right? It's going to be connected to a network, and they're going to be able to collect certain data from that system, that game system, and the actual device that's reading your neurological activity, because that's also going to be wireless. People aren't thinking about these back doors on even things like Neuralace and things like that. Is it Neuralink? Neuralink. I always forget. I always mix up Neuralace, Neuralink. It's Neuralink. Yeah, Neuralink. Huh. I gotta do another video on that and see where he's at on that. That kind of just dropped. Nobody's been talking about that for a while. Okay, guys, so that was a pretty long video. I'm looking up all these things, and I just don't see how the Senate Intelligence Committee does not know about us. Does not know that we're being involuntarily tortured and experimental on. Maybe they think it's not that bad or something like that, or maybe they think that we're really horrible people and it just needs to be done to somebody. I don't know. Everything is hidden and everything is covered by lies. We are in Mordor. We are in Mordor. So, all of you Frodos, get your ring and get ready. And we throw it, and then what's his face? Golem will try and get the ring. He will bite our finger off to get the ring, and then we throw Golem into the lava, and that should work. And my mom left a really long voicemail. Okay, guys, I love y'all. I just wanted to go through a couple of those things. I'm gonna try, like, how long did we go for that one? This is very unprofessional, okay? This is very unprofessional what I'm doing looking at the time when I'm making a YouTube video. An hour and a half, it's a little bit too long. I want to get things down to like 40 minutes. I don't know. I'm going to be working on it. Testing some stuff out, seeing if y'all like it. It's, yeah, seeing if you like it, right? That's right, because this is very serious information. It's very hard to go over like serious information all the time, but I'm living with that serious thing too. And I'm sure there's a lot of stuff. I'm missing a lot of stuff going on. I know there was a protest. Havana cries out. Did I write it down somewhere? I want to know how that went. I'm gonna be. Did some people get footage and put it on YouTube? I'm gonna be trying to look for that. Um, I'm thinking about some things. I'm just saying, and no violence or anything like that. Nobody do violence at this point because it's just going to be used. Like everybody in the world is doing violence, so it's just going to get lost in the blood, right? So nobody do violence. Always try and just, and this isn't cowardly with this. I remember one time. I remember I was sitting in the and this is weird. The people above me, the young kids, they left, right? They left, so they weren't up there. But then it seemed like I was getting hit from the side, from the condo right next to me. And my thought was they had moved the weapons to that one because it was a totally different feeling. It was coming from the side, not coming from the top, right? But the guy who lived there, somebody broke into his place, and I think they started like gang stalking him too. Um, but I did think I was like they gave the weapons to somebody in another apartment, and they're participating now. And I remember watching Star Trek: First Contact when Jean-Luc Picard was like gonna abandon the ship, right? He didn't want to abandon the ship, and he called Worf a coward. He's like, "You're a coward. You want to run away." But in this circumstance, I remember it was so hard for me because I wanted to stand my ground. It would like I was paying for that apartment and things like that, but I was like, I've got to go. I've got to get out of this and find a new place to go, right? And I was like, okay, this is escape from this, escaping a certain area or something like that, and trying to make it better. It's gonna follow, right? Because it's remote. Um, but it's a good idea sometimes. So not that anymore. Not like moving from an area really. If you're really angry at your neighbors and something's gonna happen, go ahead and move on out. Go ahead and just move immediately. But I'm more talking about a bigger escape. A bigger escape for us while we're using defenses, while we're buying time, while we're working on awareness and by a miracle. I don't want to say that because I don't want to discourage people, but getting these programs changed and ended, right? But finding a way, kind of like Brian too is looking for a place to go, right? A place where, it wouldn't be as bad. But maybe I got some thoughts. And nothing violent, but I can't talk about it right now. I got to really think about it because even some of the things I'm thinking about that aren't violent, it may show us, people may be able to use it against us, like we're not loyal to America or something like that. But the deal is, we are loyal Americans. We're being tortured. psychologically tortured, physically tortured, specific things to the brain, people, tons of people participating with bad intelligence, right? So you got gang stalkers and community placed agents and cyber placed agents and COINTELPRO and crisis actors and surveillance role play. They're inundated. Our entire countries, all of our countries, are full of people who think they're spies, but they're really rats. They're really coward rats. So we've got a lot of those people. Forgot my point about that. I forgot it was an important point about that. But we got that going on. It's a bad idea to join the system. Right now you maybe feel like you're on the winning side, but you ain't on the right side. And you're not going to be on the winning side for long because it's really top versus all of us. So you're creating the prison and the torture devices and everything like that, and you're advancing the system that's going to try and hide those murders and psychologically driving somebody insane or whatever with remote neural manipulation mixed in. You're building that for you and your kids to get attacked by. So you're not buying a seat at the table. We always say that, and I don't think any of these people, microwave, believe that. They believe that they're going to be part of that because they've been told by masonry and the military and these contractors that, we're loyal to you. You're going to be loyal. You're going to do this stuff for us, right? But they're gone first. They're gone first. They're building this system to kill them, to kill their kids and them. You know, the weapons they're making them better, so they'll be more undetectable and stuff like that. And then they're creating the system of spies and everything. I don't see how people that do gang stalking or do online spying or psyoping or directed conversation to help the remote neural manipulation destroy the brain and things like that. I don't see how they see it as like, oh, I'm a spy. I don't see how they don't see it as cowardly when it's just a bunch of like untrained civilians like getting in there and being agent provocateurs to damage somebody's brain. There's no uh, profession. There's no, they're all dumb idiots. And they're like, just go and do this thing that's really, really dangerous and really, really detailed. And like, probably CIA would train their whole lives to do some of these things, right? But just get a bunch of civilians to do it, right? And it's evil in the first place. It's so hard to talk about this stuff. It's so hard to talk about this stuff. At the beginning, it was easy for me because it was just like, but then you start to see how big it is and how people go along with their own. They're just like, oh well, it's so big and can't really fight it. But then they're building their own prisons and they're building their own deaths. So I don't get it. I don't get it. I'll tell you that much. Okay, guys. So that's just what I wanted to show y'all. I have a lot more. I have a lot of stuff, a lot of information. The Tuck, the NSA has been looking at Tuck's emails, and I want to do a video on that, and then I want to put in a little bit more information because people stop at that layer, right? The left, Joe Biden is getting the NSA to check out Tucker Carlson, right? Are they in Tucker Carlson's brain too? We don't know. The question has to be asked. With remote neural monitoring, with neuroweapons, with integrated directed energy weapon systems, when somebody who, well, I'll do it in that video because I'm going too long. I don't want to end on 133, so let's let it go to 134. But yeah, that's okay. So I just wanted to show you all that stuff. I'm 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 moving along. I'm moving along. And I think I'm gonna start working out. I'm gonna start working out, stop vaping, get off my ass, and really get the blood flowing to my brain. Really working. Like I'd stopped kind of taking my zeolite and boron. And I started taking those again, and I felt a lot more calm. I felt like my attackers were a lot, they couldn't affect me as much. And let me tell you, this difference, this factual difference, was not taking my boron and zeolite or any heavy metal cleanse, right? And so I'd get in bed at night, and my attackers would make my whole, like all my legs up to my hips, just vibrate in very strong vibration, like really strong vibration. And I think I told you guys this, and it was like right after my grandma died, and they were like, and they're trying to put an image of my grandma like as a zombie attacking me or something like that. I don't. They've kind of lost the plot with how to get to me because my psychology is so weird and different that they've been doing this so long to me. So sometimes it's like the woman's like, he's not even listening to you, like he's not, and then sometimes like what they've gone to is just like trying to make jokes because like I'll just make jokes to them and then they'll just make jokes to me and they'll make me laugh like and so it's like it's when it tortures so long it's just like what is this doing, where are we psychologically, where am I psychologically, I love you guys. I hope y'all are just hanging in there. I'm gonna look for stuff. I just want to show you all these things that will be roadblocks, but the things that like if you want to go to court, like if you're a targeted individual and you want to go to court, and you need to go to a civil court or you need to go to court looking to get a settlement, looking to have enough evidence where um, where they will give you a settlement. Whoever that you're suing, the hospital, or if you're suing the DOD, the hospital, I would just sue like all the agencies. This is what I'm thinking on it because I don't know. My attackers did send me this thing on Arcadis, which is a diversified tech company that I think is involved in this, but I'm not 100% sure that that's the contractor attacking me. But I think if you put all of like the Pentagon, DARPA, CIA, DIA, the DoD, NSA, all of these things, and you file a suit like that against the United States government, against all those organizations, I think that could actually go in. I think that's what people do, right? They just sue everyone because we're not like maybe we're not sure of the exact contractor that's doing it to us. I hope that we can get a list of that. They're gonna, I think they're gonna protect these people's names, but I'd love to get a list of the human operators, that worked on my torture. And I wouldn't do anything violent. It would mess me up. I win if they torture me. Yeah, I think this team, and I'm not sure about it, but I'm pretty sure that this team was brought in like 2014 or 2015. I was 2011. I was tortured, but they ended up switching something off because there's a man and a woman talking and another woman on the V2K, and then certain things happened, and then there were two women and two men talking, and it was like they were switching it out. And that was like in 2014. Then it was way worse. Then the remote neural manipulation, visuals, directed dreaming got a lot worse, right? It seemed more professional, like they'd done it before. Forgot my point on that. I had a point about that. Um, but so I think it's some different teams along the way, but I forgot. Memory really bad. Active memory really bad. I'm gonna take something for it. It's targeted though. It's like targeted. This is remote neural manipulation targeting my memory. So I talk to a lot of people that, talk to a lot of people that are like, this can really help your memory and stuff like that. And I'm like, yeah, I need to just do it anyway. I need to just do the stuff that can help my memory, and then hopefully can help me fight through the targeting of the memory dissolution, right? All right, guys, I love y'all. I know this was a long one. I was gonna try and just do some short videos, um, but we'll see. I'll just practice with some. We'll get a groove down. We'll get a groove down. I really do. I miss the live streams. I miss the live streams. But it's a new chapter, man. And I gotta stop saying that. It's a new chapter. We're gonna do some work. I love you guys out there watching. Leave a comment. Maybe what I'll do every once in a while is I'll go through comments and read them since I'm not doing live streams. We'll do. It's gonna be a growing process, right? And we'll do some things where you guys can still have a voice on here. All right, I love you guys. I will see you on the next one. Just stay strong. Um, I gotta check my email, see if anybody sent me anything important. Oh, now it's 11:33. So I'm gonna wait another minute till it's 11:34, and then stop the video. We'll just stop the video. It's just numbers. All right, guys. I love you guys. And I will see you on the next one. I'll see you probably before July 4th. So, but if I don't for some reason, happy July 4th. Remembering what this country was and the people that are still in this country, now called domestic terrorists, who hold to the Constitution and those things that our founding fathers fought for and died for, and lots of people died to make this country, and now the people who really hold to that are called domestic terrorists. So let's celebrate with those patriots, right? The patriots are now domestic terrorists. Celebrate July 4th. What really is America is in our heart, and it's not ground, it's not land, it's in here, and in here, and in our ear. All right, guys, I love y'all. I'll see you on the next.